Welcome everyone to the start of the expansion team series and the start of Pro Football 2023. With a new game comes a new series, and new is a good point because this is a new team, the 33rd team of the NFL expansion team. And I got the idea from the podcast NFL Stock Exchange. So huge shout out to Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers. Really love the podcast. And a few months ago, they came up with the idea and created a small expansion team series, 2 episodes where they created a new team from scratch. And since then, I thought this is a really cool idea and I wanted to implement that here in the game. A few people already did that on Madden, but of course in Madden you can only play with 32 teams. So I started on working on a mod to create a 33rd team here specifically for the Draft Day Sports game. And check out my video. There you can get more information about how I did that and also more on the schedule logic. With the implementation, we're going to have also 7 picks in the next draft. And speaking of the schedule, this is going to be our schedule for the season. As said, more on the logic and why I'm playing these teams you can find in my other video, which gives a little bit more background to the series. But the question, of course, is why Munich? Europe makes sense, in my opinion. Also, in the NFL Stock Exchange episode, they chose London as a team for obvious reasons. London, there are the London games. But Europe is the best choice, in my opinion. The Super Bowl champion always calls themselves the world champion. And for that to be true, there needs to be a team outside of the US. And of course, also from a financial perspective, I think it makes sense for the NFL to expand to Europe, maybe with a full division, maybe with a single team. What Trevor proposed in the episode was to treat the team kind of as an independent, like Notre Dame, for example, in college. That was not possible here, so the Munich Wolverines are going to be part of the AFC South. Houston Texans, the most recent team, and the Jaguars are kind of halfway in London. So, it makes sense to implement the Wolverines here in the AFC South. And again, to the question, why Munich? This year, there's going to be the first NFL Germany game in Munich. And Germans are also very passionate about football. And of course, a very obvious point, I'm from Germany, so I wanted to have a German team here for the series. And right now, as you can see, there are no players for this team. No players yet drafted for the Munich Wolverines. And what I'm going to do is to implement similar rules to what NFL Stock Exchange did in their podcast. They started by saving 4 players on offense and 4 players on defense for each team of the NFL, and then drafted a brand new team from the remaining player pool. So drafting 32 players, 1 player per each team. So if you already drafted 1 on offense, you cannot draft a defensive player, for example, on the same team, or also not another offensive player. So only 1 player per each team. Right now we have 250 million in available salary cap. Of course, I'm not using everything to draft players. Otherwise, we would have one of the best teams in the NFL. Back then in 2002, the Houston Texans were only allowed to use a certain percentage of their salary cap. And that's also what Trevor and Connor implemented in their expansion draft. So I'm going to do something similar, maybe around 50 or 60% of salary cap. I have not tried it out. So if it's possible to create a team with 50% of salary cap without only drafting rookies, because this is not going to be an only rookie team or something like that, then I'm going to use 50, otherwise something around 60. I'm going to figure that out until next week. But now the plan is to first go through the teams, save the players, talk a little bit about that. Of course, in reality, I would maybe choose different players, but here the rating is the most important stat for them. So I'm going to base my decisions on ratings and, of course, positional value. Then feel free to also comment which player you want to have, which player makes sense for the team. I'm going to draft the team in the next episode. So this is only the first half of the expansion draft today. And after that, go into the season, play the games, and also get the team better in future drafts and maybe become the first real world champion. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss an episode of this series. It was so much effort to create everything, as you might see in the other video. And on the time that has passed since NFL Stock Exchange had their podcast. So a lot of preparations, and I would highly appreciate a like for the video and subscribe. But now let's get into the first team, the Arizona Cardinals. Offensively, no question to keep Kyler Murray. You're going to see that most teams are keeping their quarterback independent of the ability. But it's just the most important position. You need to keep Kyler Murray here. And in addition to that, I thought about running back, but not too convinced, especially due to the ratings. Zach Ertz could have been a possibility, but big contract and also very old. Contract is a point you're going to see because some teams just want to get rid of the contract, for example, or are sure that the expansion team is not taking over this contract with the 50 or 60% that are limited. So I decided to keep DeAndre Hopkins, no question here. He's the best player on the team. And also Rondale Moore, fairly young, so it makes sense to build the offense around him. And I decided to keep Rodney Hudson here, really good in the game. 33 years old, so a little bit older, but the contract is not the worst. So it makes sense to keep him. Defensively, J.J. Watt is also on the older side, also not the best player, but a real leader in the locker room. So the Cardinals are advised to keep him. In addition to that, it makes sense to look into the secondary. Byron Murphy is someone I want to keep. Of course, no question, Buda Baker and Isaiah Simmons here. Not the best player, but also only 24 years old. So he can develop. Well, I just said that most teams are going to keep their quarterback. The Falcons are not one of them. Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, both very similar in rating. Ridder, of course, a very interesting option maybe for the expansion team. Rookie contract, 72 overall. But for the Falcons, they have other building blocks on offense, and one of them is Kyle Pitts. He only 84 overall. I already pushed his rating a little bit, so you're going to see that some ratings are maybe a little bit off. But Kyle Pitts, no question, he's a keeper. Same for Drake London, their first round selection from this year. And I also kept Calvin Ridley. So a very cheap contract here, makes sense to keep him. And then I thought about offensive line, and here you can see Jake Matthews, 30 years old, but very heavy contract. So it makes sense to maybe keep Chris Lindstrom, 91 overall on offense. And defensively, AJ Terrell, cornerback, of course, a no-brainer. Also should be a little bit higher. Casey Hayward, also really good here in the game. So I'm going to keep two cornerbacks. And then Richie Grant, really good last year rookie, 87 overall. And on linebacker, Rashaan Evans has really good ratings. So I'm going to keep him. Baltimore Ravens, fairly easy. Lamar Jackson, no question. Mark Andrews, no question. You can see 98 overall here, but I'm not keeping a fullback. I'm going to keep Marquise Brown. He's a new addition. They spent a first round pick on him. So 77 overall, maybe not the best, but we need to keep him. And I'm not keeping a running back because they have a good option. Ronnie Stanley needs to be the player we need to save here on the offensive line. And defensively, Odafe Owe needs to be the pick here. Really good edge rusher. And the other picks go into the secondary with Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. Both really, really good players. I decided to keep only one, and this is going to be Marlon Humphrey because we have quite some safeties. Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, both really young players, younger than Marcus Peters. So I'm going to keep them over Marcus Peters here on the secondary. Bills, one of the easier teams offensively. Josh Allen, of course. I decided to keep Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs. So Dawson Knox over Gabe Davis, mainly because of the rating. In reality, I would maybe choose differently. And one building block on the O-line. This is Dion Dawkins. They need to keep him, and they're doing so. Defensively, Ed Oliver, 81 overall, young player on the D-line. They need to keep him. Also, Von Miller, the new addition. In reality, we already see what an impact he made. So they're highly advised to keep him here. Also, Tremaine Edmonds, 86 overall linebacker. A good player here on defense. And the most important one maybe is Tre'Davious White. Could be higher than 86 overall, but he's also a player that I'm going to keep for the Bills. Panthers are an interesting team. They are without Christian McCaffrey. I'm not going to save a quarterback for them. So my main picks go into the O-line. But before that, I need to save DJ Moore, one of the only remaining weapons. And yeah, on the O-line, I'm saving Austin Corbett because of the 85 overall. I'm saving Tyler Moton, one of the better tackles here. And I'm saving Ike Ekwonu, not because of the overall, but because of the potential. Defensively, they have very young players, and the goal for them is to keep them and build around them. So Brian Burns is one pick, Derek Brown is another pick to keep him. And then the other two picks go into the secondary with Jeremy Chin, 83 overall. And I decided to keep last year rookie JC Horn, only 75, should be higher. So he's lower than CJ Henderson, but I still decided to keep him because I think he has more potential. And yeah, in reality, they would keep him without question. A bigger question is the quarterback situation in Chicago. Is Justin Fields the guy for the future? Well, I give them a little bit more time to decide on that. I kept Justin Fields. I also kept their young player Darnell Mooney, 75 overall. I kept David Montgomery on running back. In reality, Khalil Herbert is maybe the better one. Also not far away here, but to be honest, they don't have much weapons offensively to keep around. The remaining one is Cole Kmet, 75 overall. Still on rookie contract, so maybe build around him defensively. Rokon Smith is still in a very interesting contract situation. Here they need to keep him. 93 overall, also 3 years remaining on the contract here. Jalen Johnson on cornerback is a young player, 76 overall together with rookie Kyler Gordon. Players for the future, and I decided to keep Eddie Jackson, 80 overall. Or maybe? Well, no. Just like as I saw that Eddie Jackson, 80 overall, with the contract is maybe not the best choice. Let's keep Jaquan Brisker, 76 overall, rookie safety. He's really good, so let's keep him. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, no question. And they're also one of the few teams who keep a running back with 98 overall. We cannot afford to let Joe Mixon go. Wide receiver Jamar Chase. And then Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, not the best player here. I decided to keep someone on the O-line, and this is Jonah Williams, 86 overall, only 24 years old. Although Alex Kappa is also worth mentioning, or Lael Collins. Williams is younger, and we need someone on the O-line, as you can see in reality. Defensively, Trey Hendrickson is the only one I'm going to keep on the front, and the rest goes into the secondary. Chidobe Awuzie played a really good last year, and then I'm keeping Jesse Bates, arguably the best player on defense for them, and Daxton Hill, who already has a really high rookie rating. Despite the whole situation with Deshaun Watson, the Browns are advised to keep him. They traded for him. They paid a lot of money to get him. So this is unfortunately a no-brainer pick. I also decided to keep Nick Chubb, although they have a really good running back in Kareem Hunt. In the NFL Stock Exchange podcast, Nick Chubb is the face of the London franchise. Not going to happen here. The Browns keep him. They also keep Amari Cooper, and they keep their young tackle Jedrick Wills. So as you can see, here's a 100 overall guard, a 97 overall guard. So this is maybe something to keep in mind for our expansion team in Munich, but a lot of salary that we would take on defensively. No question to keep Myles Garrett, 100 overall. When we look into the secondary, they have young players with Denzel Ward, Williams, and Newsome. I decided to keep Ward and Greg Newsome. In reality, he's maybe the better player over Greedy Williams, or maybe more potential, but at least he's a first-round pick, so the Browns are going to take him over Greedy Williams, who is also a player to keep in mind, still on the rookie contract, so he could be a good addition for the Munich secondary. And the last player is John Johnson with 87 overall on safety. Cowboys have 3 no-brainer picks in Dak Prescott, in CeeDee Lamb, and in 100 overall guard Zach Martin. The fourth player was a little bit more difficult. I decided against Zeke because of the contract. So they have Tony Pollard, who's really, really good. I also decided against Michael Gallup, who is a good wide receiver, and also against Tyron Smith because of the injury history, the age, and the contract. I decided to keep Tyler Smith, the guard tackle rookie, already 83 overall. And defensively, you need to keep Micah Parsons. You also need to keep Trevon Diggs. And other than that, I decided to keep the front together, so no chance that they're going to lose DeMarcus Lawrence here, only 80 overall, but they need the edge rushers, and just because of the rating, I decided to keep Leighton Vander Esch. This is not something the Cowboys are going to do in real life, but here in the game, very cheap contract, he can be a standout linebacker for the Cowboys. Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, so they're going to keep him here. 90 is a little bit too much, just based on what he did in real life, but let's keep the weapons around Russell Wilson. The O-line is not worth mentioning, but Javonte Williams is, and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Defensively, no one from the D-line. I decided to keep Baron Browning on linebacker, so not Bradley Chubb, just because of the rating and the age. Also, again, not something I would do in reality. And then I keep, of course, Patrick Surtain and also Ronald Darby together with Justin Simmons, a no-brainer pick here. Lions, again, not a team that saves their quarterback. This is really tough. I thought about DeAndre Swift, but I decided against him because of Jamal Williams. So they can afford to lose him. TJ Hawkinson, I saved him. And I took a look at the O-line, which is one of the strengths of the team. They have Jonah Jackson, but I decided to keep Penei Sewell, 88 overall, 21 years old, and Frank Ragnow, 99 overall. So Jonah Jackson, he could be a pick for our team. Or maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown, some German power for our German team, because the fourth player the Lions are going to save is Jameson Williams. He's a rookie, 77 overall, 94 speed. So I'm not sure what the Lions would do in reality. Here they're taking Jameson Williams. Defensively, of course, they keep Aiden Hutchinson, their first round selection. They're also keeping Le'Veon Vuseriki, good rating here in the game. And other than that, Tracy Walker, free safety, 85 overall. And Mike Hughes here with an 88 overall. So these are by far the best players of the team. But let's keep Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jonah Jackson in mind for our expansion team. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. He needs weapons and his best weapon is Aaron Jones. So let's keep him. No tight end, no wide receiver, but 2 building blocks on the offensive line with David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins. Bakhtiari also already 30 years old and a big contract, but tackle is one of the most important positions in the NFL. So if he would have been 3 or 4 years older, maybe I would not have saved him. But here, interesting discussion. Same with Tyron Smith for the Cowboys, but here I decided to go with other player, or for the Cowboys I decided to go with a younger offensive lineman. Here offensively, I'm not really convinced. As we can see, in reality the Packers don't have the best offense. Defensively they're really good, at least on paper, with Jair Alexander, 88 overall. Let's keep him. And let's, of course, keep the young stud, Rashawn Gary, 89 overall. And the fourth on defensive tackle, Kenny Clark. And the fourth player, I decided to choose Eric Stokes, former first-round pick. Here only 72 overall, but I think that he can be an important part of this defense. Texans, Davis Mills, yes or no? I decided to choose yes, because otherwise the Texans would not have another quarterback here, or not really the best ones, and they don't have too many weapons offensively. So let's keep Davis Mills, let's keep Dameon Pierce, only 75 overall here, but one of the better running backs in reality. They need to build around him. The best weapon is Brandon Cooks on wide receiver, so I also kept him. And Larry Tunsil, the best O-liner on the team. So Kenyon Green is someone we could draft. And as you might see, I'm highlighting mainly players on their rookie contracts because of the salary cap restrictions that we're going to have in the draft. But I'm sure that 1 or 2 really good players on heavy contracts are going to come to Munich. But defensively, the Texans have really, really good players, or young players, I would say. In Derek Stingley, he's going to be someone we need to keep. Desmond King here with an 88 overall. Not Steven Nelson on the secondary, but Jalen Petrie, 75 overall. Good safety, and one player in the D-line, and this one player is going to be Jonathan Grenard. Let's continue with the Indianapolis Colts. Here you could say, well, they traded for Matt Ryan, so let's keep him. I'm not going to keep him, let's be honest. And is he going to come to Munich? Not sure, because the Colts have really good players. First of all, they're saving Jonathan Taylor, and they're also saving Michael Pittman, arguably their only good wide receiver right now. Not sure. Although the O-line is not really good in reality, they have 2 really good players they need to save. In Quentin Nelson, 100 overall, and Braden Smith, 93 overall. And defensively, it was a hard choice. Quitty Pay is one of the players I saved. DeForest Buckner, no question. Shaquille Leonard, also really, really good. And on cornerback, I saved Kenny Moore. So no Stephon Gilmore, whose contract is also fairly reasonable. No Julian Blackman with 75 overall. And no rookie Nick Cross, who's also really good here. So there's a good pool of players remaining for the Colts. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, and then running back, I chose James Robinson. I know this is debatable since they invested a first round pick in Travis Etienne, but he just seems to be the better runner right now. I also saved Christian Kirk, their best wide receiver here on the team, and guard Brandon Scherf because of his 95 overall. So Travis Etienne is someone worth mentioning, but yeah, James Robinson was the choice here offensively. Defensively, I'm looking at linebacker, I'm looking at Josh Allen, and first overall pick Trevon Walker. I also thought about Foyesade Olukun, 85 overall, but I decided to save two secondary players in Shaquille Griffin, 86 overall, and Andre Cisco, young player, 80 overall. So he's going to stay a Jaguar. The Chiefs are one of the most talented teams in the NFL. We need to save Patrick Mahomes, no question. We need to save Travis Kelce. But other than that, running back's not worth mentioning. Wide receiver, surprisingly, also not. I can understand, so the overall ratings are totally fair. So O-line is a huge strength. Joe Thuney, 94 overall. Creed Humphrey, 100 overall. And they also have tackle Orlando Brown and guard Trey Smith. I have two picks left. I chose Creed Humphrey, the best center in the NFL, question mark, and Orlando Brown because they traded for him. So Joe Thuney, Trey Smith, two good players. One is expensive, the other one not really. Let's keep that in mind. Defensively, Chris Jones, no question here. George Karlaftis, first round pick. They are going to keep him as well as the other first round pick, Trent McDuffie, and Justin Reed, their new addition on safety. Raiders, Derek Carr, not the best player here, also really expensive, but they don't have anyone behind him, so the Raiders need to save Derek Carr. I also chose Josh Jacobs, their running back. Everyone thought he's done after playing in the Hall of Fame game, but he is not, so the Raiders are saving him here. They're also saving Darren Waller and Devontae Adams, so that was a pretty clear selection for me. You can discuss about running back, but there was maybe Colton Miller to save. Yeah, maybe maybe I'm changing my decision again. Colton Miller, tackle is the more important decision, so let's keep Colton Miller instead of Josh Jacobs. Defensively, I'm not changing my mind. I'm keeping linebacker Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. Denzel Perryman also really good here, but I don't keep three linebackers. I know Crosby, Chandler Jones are rather edge players, but this is a totally other discussion here in the game. I talked about that in my suggestions for the 23 game, so edge is not yet a position here. Hopefully in the future, but for now, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones are linebackers. So my other picks go into the secondary. Jonathan Abram, 78 overall, and free safety Trevon Merrick, 83 overall. You could argue that Nate Hobbs is the one to keep, but due to the ratings, not here in the game. Chargers, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Rashawn Slater. Pretty clear selection. In reality, you could think about Mike Williams over Keenan Allen, but here the overall difference is way too significant. And other than that, well, I'm not too convinced with the other players. So offensively, pretty clear for me. Defensively, also clear that you need to keep Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Although Mack is on a high salary, you cannot leave him out of the equation here. And other than that, Well, JC Jackson, they paid him, so he's only 26 years old. We're going to keep him here. And the last player is Derwin James, no question, one of the best safeties in the NFL. The Rams, Matt Stafford led them to the Super Bowl, so he needs to be on the team. Thought about Cam Akers, but since they want to trade him in reality, he is also up for debate to take him for the expansion team. I decided to keep Cooper Kupp for sure, and Allen Robinson, although he's only 77 overall, and one building block on the O-line, Rob Havenstein. Defensively, you have a no-brainer top three, I would say, in Aaron Donald, in Bobby Wagner, and in cornerback Jalen Ramsey. And the fourth player here, Taylor Rapp, 81 overall. Also good young player who can be a building block long term. Miami Dolphins, they keep Tua Tagovailoa. In reality, you saw how they're going to play with Teddy Bridgewater and with Skylar Thompson, so he needs to stay on the team. And of course, don't let the two best weapons walk in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And to keep the O-line somewhat on a decent level, we need to keep Terron Armstead. Defensively, the money is in the secondary. You're going to see that. Emmanuel Ogbah, the only one worth keeping here on edge, but cornerback Xavier Howard, Byron Jones need to be on this team, and star safety Javon Holland, no-brainer. Not many teams left to pick. Minnesota Vikings, you already saw in the scenario series which players I value the most. It was not Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings do value him. So let's keep him, as well as Dalvin Cook, 100 overall. He was one of the best players in the scenario series. If you missed that, check it out. It was really fun to go through all the different scenarios for the Vikings. One of my personally most favorite videos, but judge yourself. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, we need to keep him. And on the O-line, I kept Brian O'Neill, 84 overall. He needs to be on this team long term. So Ezra Cleveland, up for debate. Defensively, I don't understand why Danielle Hunter is a linebacker here. Same discussion, but he needs to be on this team. 81, really low, but still Eric Kendricks, Danielle Hunter, two linebacker picks, as well as Cameron Dantzler, young, good player here on cornerback. And also Louis Zine, he is actually one of the highest rated rookies here in the game. 85 overall, unfortunately injured in real life if I remember correctly, but here he stays and plays for the Vikings. Quarterback Mac Jones unfortunately needs to be the pick. Why unfortunately? Because I like Bailey Zappi. I mean, you cannot ignore his college performances. And he also played fairly decent in the NFL so far. But the Patriots are keeping Mac Jones. So Bailey Zappi, Munich, face of the franchise. Let's see. The Patriots also have really good other players. Maybe not so much offensively. So that's why Hunter Henry is going to be tagged, as well as Michael Onwenu on the O-line, and Trent Brown, 92 overall. So 99 overall center is up for grab, especially with the salary. Could be a choice for us. And also defensively, the group is rather aging, so let's keep young players. I decided against Christian Barmore because of the overall rating and made my choice for Josh Uche in one of the younger players. I kept Javon Bentley mainly because of the rating. And then strong safety Kyle Duggar needs to be on the team. And Marcus Jones, funny enough, Jack Jones is the best cornerback here on the team in reality. One of the best rookies this year. But not worth tagging here in the game. Andy Dalton threw 2 back-to-back pick sixes. So, they keep Jameis. They also keep Alvin Kamara. They're keeping Chris Olave, and tackle Ryan Ramczyk. So no Michael Thomas. In reality, he has a horrible contract, and here only 84 overall. The rookie has higher value in my opinion. Defensively, they keep the older players, Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis, as building blocks around the team. And that's mainly because the Saints see themselves in the win now mode, kind of. I mean, they traded away their first round pick, so they're not risking losing one of their better players or two of their better players defensively. Of course, Marshawn Lattimore needs to be on the team as well, and new addition Tyrann Mathieu. Let's get to two of the most surprising teams in the NFL, the New York teams. Here, the Giants, Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor. They could maybe afford losing one of them, so they're not spending their pick on a quarterback. They're spending one of the 4 picks for Saquon Barkley to save him. And also Kadarius Toney here, one younger and better player. And of course, 2 of their young studs on the offensive line, Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. Defensively, Dexter Lawrence, the nose tackle, stays on the team. I decided against Leonard Williams because of the rating. And chose Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. Both could be higher in overall ratings. So the Giants used the card to develop them. And the final pick, free safety, Xavier McKinney here, 83 overall. The other New York team, Zach Wilson, came back and was 3-0, so he is going to be one of the picks here. They drafted Breece Hall pretty high, so he is also a pick. Same for Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, and also Elijah Vera Tucker on the O-line. So no Mekhi Becton, 75 overall. I think also in reality they would not tag him. He is heavily injury prone, so could be a choice to come to Munich and maybe visit the hospitals in Germany. Defensively, Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks right now in the NFL in my opinion. He stays, also first round pick. Jermaine Johnson stays on the team. And other than that, Quinnen Williams plays like one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He needs to stay. And the final pick, mainly because of the rating, DJ Reed. Talking about surprises, who would have thought that the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL? Well, could be because of the running abilities of Jalen Hurts. So he stays on the team, but no running back. They have quite good group here. So they could definitely afford losing one. Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight ends, so he stays for the Eagles. Same for AJ Brown. So Devontae Smith is up for grab here, since the final pick goes into the O-line. Jordan Mailata, 92 overall. So same discussion here. Lane Johnson, 32 years old, 100 overall, 17 million. Is he going to be one of the building blocks for the Wolverines? Let's see who's available defensively. One player who's definitely not available is defensive tackle Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. I'm going to keep both here for the Eagles, and the other 2 picks go into the secondary with Darius Slay and, surprisingly, Avonte Maddox, who is one of the better players here in the game. Adoree Jackson, I thought about him, but only 82 overall. So there are still some interesting players available to grab from the Eagles. Pittsburgh Steelers need to keep their first round selection, Kenny Pickett and also Najee Harris. Same discussion here, also one of the few running backs, but I'm pretty sure the Steelers would also tag him in reality. And other than that, the ratings are not the best. So I'm going to keep Deontay Johnson and George Pickens here. You could think about Kendrick Green or James Daniels because of the rating, but in reality, the O-line is not the best, so let's keep 2 young wide receivers. Defensively, it's a totally other picture. I decided to keep TJ Watt, of course, linebacker 100 overall, and also Alex Highsmith, and also Miles Jack. So 3 linebackers. Cameron Hayward is up for grab, but he's 33 years old, big contract. So my decision was between Alex Highsmith and him. He's younger. He also played really well so far. So the Steelers tag 3 linebackers and, of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick, 90 overall safety. Final 5 teams, the Niners need to keep Trey Lance due to the investment they make. So is it time for Jimmy G in Munich? Let's see. Christian McCaffrey, their newest addition, also no-brainer pick. And other than that, you need to keep George Kittle and you need to keep Deebo Samuel. So Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk, there are some good players, especially Trent Williams. It really hurt to not tag him. 100 overall, 34 years old. I mean, there's so many good players on the Niners roster. And also defensively, it was really hard to pick 4 players. One of them is Javon Kinlaw. He's not the best players, but I tagged him because of his potential and the Niners' focus on the defensive front. Together with Nick Bosa, they could play a role. I did not take Eric Armstead because of the rating and the contract. So the other 2 picks go in Fred Warner, 92 overall, and the new addition Javarius Ward on corner. I really like Talanoa Hufanga. I also pushed his rating a little bit. He was way too bad here in the game compared to what he did in the first few weeks in the NFL. So the Niners are going to be a hard choice for us with so many good players to pick from. The Seahawks, Geno Smith played a really good season so far. Would the Seahawks keep him? Not sure. I'm not doing it here because I am keeping Kenneth Walker running back. This is highly debatable, I know, but at least in the game, the drop off to Drew Lock is not so big. So Kenneth Walker, Noah Fant because of the 89 overall rating. And other than that, of course, you need to keep DK Metcalf and also Charles Cross here, 73 overall rookie. The tackles for the Seahawks played really good. So Charles Cross is going to stay a Seahawk. Defensively, you have young Jordan Brooks, 83 overall. He is the pick. And also one of the big surprises, Tariq Woolen, maybe one of the better cornerbacks also for the future. He needs to stay on the team. Jamal Adams, they traded for him. It was really expensive, so they're kind of forced to keep him here and to keep the good safety duo alive. Quandre Diggs is the final pick here for the Seahawks. The Buccaneers are trying to keep their weapons offensively with Tom Brady. They need to have their quarterback. And then it becomes tricky. They need to keep Tristan Wirfs, young tackle, but they also could keep the other O-linemen. I'm not doing that because they have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They need to keep them, and that makes Julio Jones a very interesting target for us. 89 overall, contract is fairly decent. Only on a 1-year contract, 6.7 million. But yeah, in reality, the Buccaneers would, I'm pretty sure, keep Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tom Brady, and Tristan Wirfs. So very interesting team because they also have really good players defensively. Vita Vea not going to Munich. He stays in Tampa Bay. And then Levante David, he's older but way too good to let him go. And then my picks go into the secondary with Jamal Dean and Antoine Winfield. So no Devin White, no Shaquille Barrett, no Sean Murphy-Bunting. The Buccaneers also together with the Niners are one of the really interesting teams to choose from. I mean, one strategy for next week could be to start with the obvious choices for teams and do the teams with many options last. Not sure, I'm still going to figure that out, so I have not made up my mind yet who's going to play in Munich. As said, feel free to comment and give your input. So maybe Malik Willis should be our franchise QB because the Titans are tagging Ryan Tannehill. They would do so in reality. They need to do it here. Of course, also Derrick Henry and Traylon Burks, their rookie. And I decided to keep Nate Davis here in 84 overall. Not many players offensively could think about Tyler Levan, but because of age and contract, I kept Nate Davis. Defensively, you paid Harold Landry, you want to keep him in Tennessee. And other than that, Jeffrey Simmons, he is really good, so his overall should be higher. And the other two picks are in the secondary with former first-round pick Caleb Farley. He has still some potential to get better. And Kevin Byard, one of the best safeties. He also stays in Tennessee. Final team, the Commanders traded for Carson Wentz, so they're going to keep him. As you're going to see, there are not many weapons for the Commanders offensively, so they are keeping Carson Wentz. They're also keeping Antonio Gibson, their running back, although they have good ones in Brian Robinson, in J.D. McKissick here in the game. But the other picks, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. I thought about guard or Charles Leno, but all not the youngest players. So let's keep one running back. Not convinced by my choice offensively. Defensively is a totally other picture. In reality, they are horrible in the game. They are pretty good. Jonathan Allen, 100 overall, needs to stay. Same for Darren Payne, 92 overall. And Chase Young, who's only an 83 overall here. And the final pick, not linebacker. The final pick is Kendall Fuller, 85 overall. So also here, especially on linebacker, there are some players we could choose from. 256 players are saved. And it is time for the Munich Wolverines to pick their squad. Which player is going to be our face of the franchise? Let's figure that out next episode. I'm so excited for this series. Where is this team going to go? Let's see that we can draft the best possible team next week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As said, feel free to like and subscribe. It was so much effort to build this, and I'm so excited for next week. Hope you are too. See you next time. Bye bye.